Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a wild intersection of theology, physics, and human history. We're going to unpack a fascinating piece of source material that completely challenges how some people view the future of humanity. If you've ever found yourself wondering whether the world is just naturally winding down or if it's actually building towards something much greater, you are in the right place. This conceptual journey is going to ask us to rethink the laws of nature and how they really apply to human society. I'm super excited to guide you through this, so let's jump right in. So here's the massive question we're tackling today. Is human society destined to become more depraved just because of entropy? I mean, think about a closed physical system. The second law of thermodynamics, the law of entropy, tells us that a system like that will inevitably run down. It always moves from order to disorder. But does that same physical law mean that human civilization, morality, and life itself are also just running out of steam? Our source material for this is an excerpt from a 1992 publication called Biblical Horizons. It was written by theologian James B. Jordan. In it, he's directly addressing an argument made by some folks within the creation science community. See, they were using the physical law of entropy to argue not just for a young Earth, but to claim that the universe and human society are continually degrading over time. Jordan takes a very analytical, impartial approach here to examine whether applying physics to sociology actually holds any water. And right off the bat, Jordan points out a huge, fundamental flaw in this way of thinking. He calls it the problem of blurring matter and life. You see, some scientists will argue, well, it's only our physical machinery that keeps us from returning to the dust, and eventually that machinery wears out. But Jordan says this is highly problematic. Why? Because it assumes a direct one-to-one equation between the physical laws of energy and the biological, spiritual principles of life. It takes a completely blind, impersonal process and forces it onto living, breathing humanity. To fix this blur, Jordan draws a really strict dividing line in his framework. On one side, you've got matter and energy. And yeah, in the universe as a whole, it's generally accepted that energy tends toward a constant, low state of randomness. That's entropy. But on the flip side, we have life and humanity. Jordan argues that according to Christian theology, life absolutely does not follow a closed system rule. And that's because the Holy Spirit constantly pours new life into the universe from the outside. This is an absolutely crucial point. While the first law of thermodynamics says physical energy doesn't increase, this theological framework insists that life actually does increase. This creates a massive upward trajectory, which is pretty obvious when you look at the sheer expansion of the human and animal kingdoms since creation. In Jordan's view, physical machinery doesn't just wear out all on its own. It wears out because the Spirit withdraws. He's emphasizing that we are looking at God's personal providence here, not just some impersonal physical process. All right, moving on to Section 1, the biblical pattern of history, maturation over decay. So let's dive into the positive alternative Jordan gives us to replace that gloomy entropy model. Instead of a straight depressing line downward into decay, he identifies a four-step repeating cycle in human history. Step 1 is the creation of an ordered system. Step 2 is the development of that system. Step 3 is where it gets really interesting. The system begins wearing thin. But Jordan argues this isn't primarily because of entropy or rot. He uses a great analogy. He says systems wear thin primarily because human beings continually grow and simply need new, larger clothes. It's literally like a teenager outgrowing their shoes every 6 months. Step 4 then is the breakdown and restructuring of that old system into something totally new, larger, and better fitted. When you look across biblical history, you can really see this four-step theory in action. The original garden wore thin, right? And that gave way to the oasis sanctuary of the patriarchs. Then that gave way to the tabernacle, which was eventually replaced by the temple, culminating finally in the new covenant. This perfectly illustrates his core thesis. Each breakdown is actually just a prelude to a recreation. Each new era is more ordered and more glorious than the one before it. It's all about maturation, not entropy. That brings us to Section 2, transforming energy into life. Now that we've established society is maturing rather than just decaying, the text shifts gears to explore this wild physical theological mechanism. Jordan asks a really practical question here to make his point. How can we get life from dead bread and dead flesh? Seriously, think about your lunch today. We eat plants and animals, and somehow we live and grow from them. From a purely mechanical standpoint, that dead matter shouldn't impart life. But Jordan posits that the spirit actually works in tandem with these physical substances. Energy gets released from the food, and it's actively transformed and elevated into life. He maps this whole thing out as a grand theological system of consecration. Basically, the world of minerals and raw base energy gets elevated or consecrated into plants. Then plants are elevated as food for animals. And then both plants and animals are consecrated as food for man. At every single link in this chain, physical energy is technically lost to the system. Heat is lost. But life is demonstrably increased. Ultimately, man literally eats the world into himself. Jordan actually uses this amazing phrase for the end result here: the gradual humanification of the universe. As the source text lays out, Jordan proposes a model where energy does naturally move toward heat death, but the spirit is constantly transforming that energy into life. So the net result of history is the transfer of the physical world into mankind. This incredible concept leads us right to the logical climax of the essay. If humanity is slowly eating the universe and transforming its energy into life, what does the end of time actually look like? Which leads us perfectly into Section 3, Future Models and the Destiny of the Universe. Now, Jordan refuses to be totally dogmatic about this, so he impartially lays out two potential models for the ultimate future. Model 1 is the drained universe. In this scenario, after millions of years, the universe is completely drained of physical energy. All of it has run down by being transformed into life, leaving a completely glorified humanity that has fully eaten the universe. Model 2 is the recharged universe. In this view, the massive influx of life into humanity actually spills over, causing a complete restoration and recharging of physical energy in the world. It's kind of like how Jesus performed physical miracles through the boundless energy of the Spirit. But honestly, regardless of which of those ultimate models proves true, Jordan makes a super practical point for us today. Human action reverses entropy. It's so easy to get lost in the cosmic scale of things, but just think about everyday life. A knife grows dull because of entropy, right? But then human beings use their energy to sharpen it right back up. Human work pours organization back into the physical system. Because human beings are the image of God, Jordan argues that our destiny is to exercise dominion and organization over the entire universe. And that brings us right to the bottom line of the source text. Jordan's conclusion is crystal clear. Applying the second law of thermodynamics, entropy, to social theory or biology is just a fundamental misapplication. It completely ignores the continuous procession of life entering humanity from the outside. You just can't take a law meant for a closed loop of dead physical energy and force it onto an open system of living, growing humanity. I want to leave you with this incredibly striking, almost sci-fi-esque quote from the text. Jordan suggests that as history progresses, the enormous energy given to humanity might lead to man becoming the master of new suns to replace the old one, miniature suns powering all kinds of things. It's a profound paradigm shift. Instead of a society that's doomed to inevitable depravity and decay, this framework envisions a humanity destined to outgrow its current limits, organize the cosmos, and literalize its dominion. So the question I want you to walk away with today is this: are we living in a universe that is slowly dying, or a universe that is being slowly transformed into something greater by human hands? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and we'll see you next time.